Round 6, Jak 2 vs. Ratchet and Clank going Commando. Unlike most sequels that just been released and have little or no changes, well, these two sequels, they made the complete change that will forever change the Jak and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank franchises. I mean, wow! It was just simply phenomenal just to see Naughty Dog and Insomniac Games go in the new direction in their franchises. They're both taking the competition of being Sony's #1 company into a whole new level. They first focused on their younger audience, but now at this point of the days of the PlayStation 2, both of their games are from young, cutesy, and friendly into something badass and hardcore. How epic is that? Both of these games were released on 2003, and this is what I call competition. Just a little heads up, just like the last round, in this round, one game gets 6 fingers out of 5 and the other gets 5 fingers out of 5. So who will win those 6 fingers? Let's find out. Jak 2. Wait a minute, how come the title does not have Daxter in it? He's still in the series! Anyway, the story picks up from Jak and Daxter. Jak and the gang were demonstrating the Rift Rider in the precursor Rift Gate that they found in the previous game. When it was activated, a great evil has entered their world. With no time to waste, Jak immediately activated the Rift Rider and went through the portal. Unfortunately, Samos and Kira got separated with Jak and Daxter and entered the future in Haven City. Jak was captured by Praxis's Crimson Guards. While Jak was imprisoned, he goes under experiment with Dark Eco, and when exposed to Dark Eco, he turns into a mindless beast. 2 years later, Daxter found Jak and...
I'm gonna kill Praxis!
Holy shit! My god, Jak can talk! And wow, this game is starting to look good! Jak 2 is an open-world cyberpunk kick-ass game that's simply epic. You still have the ability to punch, spin attack, double jump, roll, headbutt, but you also have new features. You can hijack vehicles, skate on jetboards, and you have guns. Guns? Holy shit, Naughty Dog is really taking the series very seriously. Anyway, back to the guns. As you progress in the game, you slowly collect 4 different kinds of guns. Scattergun, Blaster, Vulcan Fury, and the Peacemaker. You can set off combos using melee attacks and fire them to cause faster ways to kill enemies. With this feature, that means you no longer have to worry about ecos as power-ups anymore. By the way, they threw the eco power right out of the fucking window, haven't they? Speaking of ecos, you can turn it to Dark Jak, where if you collect a total number of Dark Ecos from enemies, you can turn it to Dark Jak. Sadly, for a short period of time. But you can get new powers for Dark Jak when you collect these skull gems from enemy metalheads and buy them from the precursor Oracle. Right after Jak and Daxter escape Baron's prison, he then joins a rebel movement called the Underground and fight against Baron Praxis, the Metalheads, and the Metalhead leader, and save Haven City from the despair of the war which they are in. Man, Jak 2 has the upper hand of being the winner of this round. Now let's look at the competitor's side. 1 year after the original was released, and the same year that Jak 2 was released, Insomniac has released Ratchet and Clank going Commando. After defeating Drek, Ratchet and Clank were cooling down for a while, being interviewed on Behind the Hero. Holy crap! Just like Jak, Ratchet has a different voice! Anyway, life was getting boring without a hero needed, until a CEO of Megacorp, Mr. Fizzwidget, teleported them from their interview and asked the duo for assistance in recovering a stolen biological experiment. Without hesitation, Ratchet took the job to stop the thief who stole the experiment. 2 weeks of training and traveling from Veldin to the Vulcan Galaxy, our hero's new adventure begins. Just like Jak 2, Ratchet and Clank Going Commando is very different from its predecessor. Sure, you still have weapons, missions, objectives, puzzles, and minigames, but Insomniac has introduced one of the best new features that I've seen from a sequel. Introducing the nanotech, where Ratchet gains experience points from the enemies that he kills. If he gains enough experience, he gains an extra hit point. Also, whatever weapon he uses to kill his enemy, that weapon gains experience points, and they can level up to a better and more powerful weapon. This makes blowing shit up more addicting than ever before. With this new nanotech leveling system, I can debate whether or not this is an RPG. Going Commando contains a total of 18 weapons, such as the Blitz Gun, Seeker, Lava Gun, and my favorite weapon of all time, the Rhino 2. Oh yeah! Leveling each weapon is fun as hell. You can change your outfit, customize your ship, and tons of stuff more. Not all the levels, I mean planets, you just go there and complete the mission objective and leave. There are racing stages, non-linear worlds that has crystals to collect, and gladiator battles for you to win large numbers of bolts. Okay, I took too much time in talking about both these games. Now let's see which game is better, Jak 2 or Ratchet and Clank Going Commando. The one thing that the Jak series finally has that Ratchet and Clank series has is that they finally have weapons. But unfortunately, Jak 2 only has 4 weapons, and Ratchet & Clank has even more and better weapons than its predecessor. What's disappointing about Jak 2's weapons is that they only have 2 useful weapons, the Blaster and the Falcon Fury. The Scattergun is too slow, and the Peacemaker, being that it's supposed to be the best weapon in the game, has a very low amount of ammo capacity, and it's nowhere as powerful as SIG's Peacemaker. Other than the selection of weapons, both of these games plays the same way. Jak still has his headbutt punch and spin attack and double jump moves, and Ratchet still has his wrench and uses Clank for certain situations like hovering and getting to higher areas. Despite all that stuff, let's look at the improvements that these sequels has made. What Jak 2 improved from Jak and Daxter despite the weapons is that you can use a jetboard to go faster on foot and do tricks beyond Tony Hawk style. The difficulty and challenge has really been reached through the roof, probably one of the hardest games I have ever played. Jak 2 heavily improved on creativity and challenge and designs. Some of them are so challenging, it takes a lot of brain power, patience, and skill in order to pass an obstacle or a situation. Also, they made Daxter a playable character, but to be honest, Clank as a playable character is much more better than Jak 2 and the original Ratchet & Clank combined. In Going Commando, despite the nanotech leveling system being a huge improvement, there are certain aspects of the game that really improved. In the original Ratchet & Clank, you weren't able to move fast, jump, or use any of your weapons. But with the gravity boots in the sequel, more than makes up for it. When switching weapons in the original game, it did not stop time, and changing weapons next to an enemy was a big mistake, and the sequel stops time when switching weapons. I did criticize the original RNC for lack of good weapons, but in Going Commando, it was much better selection of weapons, plus the ability to buy armor and customize your ship. Now let's look at the design. Well, I'm kind of disappointed with Jak 2 because everything is dark and felt too post-apocalyptic that made me wish that they were colorful as its predecessor. But yet, I love to watch Haven City and Haven Forest at night because it's so beautiful. Ratchet & Clank 2 made their design in the game very different from one level to the other. Each planet you go is very different and felt more like an adventure. Now let's look at each of the storyline. There is no denying that Jak 2's storyline is badass. But let's not forget how the first time we played RNC2, there was a surprising plot twist that completely changed the storyline. Both storylines in both games were well paced. It did not go too fast, nor did it go too slow. It's hard to say which story did I like the most, but for me, there are more memorable characters in Jak 2 than Ratchet & Clank 2. The characters in Ratchet & Clank 2 that weren't important to the stories just passes by. But again, I'm a tie in which storyline did I like the most because Ratchet & Clank 2 had much better comedic moments than Jak 2. Now looking at the boss fights, well, I'm a little disappointed that there weren't as memorable bosses in Jak 2. You simply battle Baron Praxis twice and the Metalhead leader. RNC2 did have a lot of different boss battles, and after each boss battle ends, the story changes. But in choosing who had the best final boss fight, I have to say Jak 2 because it became epic when you were finishing the game. So in choosing which sequel is better, I have to say Ratchet & Clank Going Commando is the winner. I'll explain why Jak 2 couldn't win this round. You see this? You see this? All my controllers are broken because of this game. This game had the most unforgivable difficulty ever. Seriously, this game is so difficult that a magazine had to list a top 10 most difficult missions in Jak 2. Seriously, there are so many fucking moments that pissed me off so fucking much that I went beyond apeshit insane. These controllers are very hard to break, and back then in my teenhood, I was so mad at the difficulty, I literally broke every controller I owned. There's bound to be dozens of missions where they keep pissing you off by making you fail and restart the whole mission from the start. Seriously, there are rarely any checkpoints in these fucking levels and fucking missions that makes you want to go destroy anything that's close to you. From racing that fucking arrow, from surrounded by Crimson Guards, and all that crazy shit that you have to face that just makes you more violent than ever. I played very difficult games like Battletoad, Ninja Gaiden, and it's definitely in that level of frustration. Seriously, most unforgivable difficulty ever. I hate the difficulty. I hate the torture. I hate the pain and punishment. Unlike Jak 2, Ratchet & Clank 2 does not set out to reinvent the wheel. Instead, the game is more of a refinement. For the most part, the game plays exactly like the original, only with a few refinements. The addition of the nanotech leveling system in Ratchet & Clank Going Commando is what really shines the game. You don't have to complete the game's story. There are a lot of opportunities to buy and level stuff up. You have so many ways to earn bolts, like gladiator fights, and so much more that I can't discuss in this 10-minute video. Ratchet & Clank 2 has so much more replay value than Jak 2. When you beat the whole game in Jak 2, what else are you going to do? since there's nothing else but to collect orbs, which are fucking hard to find and collect. The leveling up system in Ratchet & Clank 2 is what made the replay value, and it's the formula throughout the Ratchet & Clank series that never gets old. I would be lying to you if I said that I hated Jak 2, but I love the game, but the unforgivable difficulty is what made this game lose its 6 fingers out of 5. My score for Jak 2 is a 5 fingers out of 5, and my score for Ratchet & Clank Go and Commando deserves a 6 fingers out of 5. I rest my case and declare Insomniac Games the winner of round 6. Once again, we have a tie, so the next round we're going to have a tiebreaker. So join with me in round 7 to see which series will be ahead of the game. This episode is brought to you by the Boo Chow Radio Podcast, episode 11. If you haven't seen it yet, please click on the link in the description box below this video.